Um, and we're live. Should be coming in for a lot of people right now. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Uh, Hello, my name is Codemaster Jamal, and today I'm going to be streaming live. I'm going to be showing you guys my leveling system that I created for my game. Um, I mainly I'm mainly doing this video because, well, it's a live stream, but it'll be posted on YouTube in the form of a video eventually. But I'm mainly doing this uh, stream basically to show you guys not just the level system that I created for my game, which I plan on using this footage later on in that devlog, but also to kind of give you guys a useful tool that you might need for your game if you want to do a sort of JRPG or RPG style leveling system for your game. And this the way how this system works, it's a little bit different than most systems I've seen on YouTube. I really had to kind of build. Well, I pretty much built this class from the ground up because most tutorials I found just weren't helpful enough for my game. So now, granted, the design of your game might be a little bit different, but I'm basically going to post up this video regardless as a way to help out any amateur or even professional developers develop leveling systems for their game. So I'm also shooting this live because the unfortunate part about well, at least the unfortunate part about my laptop is that the graphics card isn't great enough to actually record the Unity editor inside of OBS Studio without it like glitching and crashing and stuff like that. But I noticed that every time I do a live stream, it's actually a lot. It's it comes out pretty clean. So seems like we're connected to everyone right now, and just give me a little short second. I'm connecting to the chat basically. So anyone there in the chat, send a little message. Okay, so let's I'm going to try my best to kind of keep this video between 20 to 30 minutes. But for the most part, I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible so that way it doesn't take forever. So like as soon as I'm done with this introduction, I'm pretty much going to go straight forward into it, and we're not going to we're not going to waste any time with anything else. And once again, regardless, you're going to have to tweak this. You're going to have to tweak this leveling system for your game, regardless, because that's just a part of programming. So there are links to the source code. I made a paste bin. Well, I had a paste bin from a long time ago, and there's a two links to the source code that I created. There's one link with the actual code that I have inside of my Virtual Monsters RPG game project. And then there's a kind of generic style of the level system that I created for anyone else that wanted to kind of implement a leveling system into their game. So I'm actually just going to show you guys a rough example of how it works, and we're going to go right into it. So I'm just going to go here, I'm going to click play, and okay, there we go. Created some auras for the game earlier. So here's how this leveling system works. We're going to go here to our player prefab, which is a clone. And then on a class I have called player tamer, we have here our disciplines, which is the level EXP experience needed. Basically when the player, currently because I'm not loading player data into the game, when the player basically is spawned into the game, you automatically start at level 1, 0 EXP, and then to get to the next level you need 1,000 EXP. Now I've created a function inside of the game where if I press Q, as you can see here, it increases the EXP to 500. So if I hit Q again, it increases the EXP. You have 0 EXP, but now you're at level 2, as it says here in the debug.log in the console. And now you need 3,000 experience to get to the next level. So that's pretty much how the level system works. I wish I could have implemented some kind of like cool UI to show you guys on screen how it works, but for now, this is pretty much it. But we're going to go ahead and step back and take a look at the Visual Studio Code. And this is how the Visual Studio Code works. Well, first off, let's start off with this one. We're taking a game object called player, and we're taking the player tamer, and then I created a constant variable called max level, and we set it to 100. So no matter what, players basically can't go past this level unless there's like an expansion or something like that, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to get into that too much. I want to talk about that a little bit more later. We have a constructor which takes a game object, which we call it the player, and then we basically just set this player for the class itself to be equal to the player that we're passing into, the game object that we're passing into the constructor of the script. And then for the player tamer, we're taking the component inside of the child, which is, let me go to Unity real quick. I want to show you guys my prefab and how it works a little bit. Alright, so this is how my player character kind of works. We have like the player actual class itself, which is this here, and then the tamer itself is another game object. And same thing here with this monster team here. So any monsters that the player has, it's just added to this team. So it's like it becomes a child of this team, of the monster team class. So that's kind of how my player prefab works, is that it's the object itself and then the actual tamer and the actual monsters that the tamer might have. So on the actual tamer object, we have something called the player tamer class, which is this script here. So basically, in our Visual Studio Code, what we're doing is we're grabbing that component in the child, and then we're setting the player tamer for the level system script to equal the component within the player tamer script. So that's that. Now, here's what happens. I created a script a while back. Basically, it's called spawn player. Right now, I'm using that to kind of test my game. And with the spawn player function, this is what we do. We actually call the level system. We create a new instance of the level system, and we pass in the player game object, which we created like a while back when we instantiate the player. And then we're calling the first function set starting experience. Alright, so this first function here, set starting experience, what it does is that it sets the player's level to 1, and then it gets basically the amount of experience that the player needs in order to get the level 2. And then it exits the script with this return right here. So that's the first thing that happens. And we're gonna go into our player tamer script. I'm trying not to show too much because I don't want to spoil too much of the game. And but basically all we're doing is on input. Basically, this happens on every update. Basically, I guess we're good enough to show this. This happens on every update. So on every update, we're checking the player for any input, or we're checking the client for any input. And if you press, in my case, I designated the key Q in order to do this function. And on this function, all we're doing is we're creating a new level system, and then we're passing the game object that this player tamer script is attached to, and then we're saying level system add experience, and we're passing in the value 500. So that's where our next function here comes in, where we are basically adding the experience. As you see here, we have a public void add experience. It takes an integer data type and the amount, and then we're just adding the amount of experience that we're passing into the player EXP that we already defined earlier from the player tamer. So we that's why we got this component here, so we can basically modify any values on this player tamer at our will. In this case, we're modifying the EXP value. And then we obviously increment the total EXP by the exact same amount. And then what we do is that we call a function, a private function called experience check. EXP check. You could name it EXP check for shorter. Basically, what this EXP check does is that it checks if the player tamer's current EXP is greater than or equal to the player tamer's the amount of experience that the player tamer needs, which is this value right here. And then if it is greater or equal to the amount of experience needed, we call another private function called level up. And then within the level up function, what we do is basically we check to see if the player's at the max level already, because if it's at the max level already, we just exit the script, we return, and nothing to worry about. But if the player's current level does not equal the max level, and the amount of experience it needs is greater than or equal to the amount of experience it has is greater than and equal to the amount of experience that's needed, basically we perform a level up function. I guess this is the function that I created. In my case, I have something called attribute points. So every level you gain 3 attribute points, and we're incrementing the player's level by 1, and then we're actually going to I commented this out here because this is actually the old formula, but we'll get into that just a little bit later. But basically, we're subtracting the amount of experience that we currently have by the amount of experience that's needed, and then we're resetting the amount of experience that's needed for the player's current level. And then we're adding attributes here. We're adding points to our attribute points, and then debug.log, we say what level the player's on now, and then we perform another experience check, which creates kind of a loop, basically. So we have this experience check, which throws the level function, the level up function, and then within the level up function, we call the same function again to kind of create a manual loop. And the reason for that is that sometimes a player can be awarded a lot more EXP than what they might need for one level. So we want to check again to see if the player may have enough experience to get the next level. So otherwise, in this experience check, it just exits the function. That's what this return here is for, just to exit the function. So that's that. Now the last function is get experience needed. So we're going to take the level of the player. We're passing in, it takes an integer value, passing in the player's level. And then we have a base EXP of 500, and then we have another double variable. Basically, it's an exponent, and this is basically just where it gets kind of complicated a little bit, and this is why I kind of want to save this for my devlog, where I can be a bit more articulate with my speech. At times, I'm better at writing things down, but basically what we're doing is we're performing a function that basically says, in this case, we have to actually increment the level, because if we don't, we'll get the experience needed for that level, and we don't need the experience needed for that level. We need the experience needed for the next level. So that's kind of how it works. But we're basically creating a math function. We have to typecast it as an int variable because in this case it's a private int function, which means it needs to return an integer data type. So we're returning this new exp variable that we're creating within this function, and basically what's happening is that we're going to get I could use floor, but floor would round it down. The math.floor, here, just type it in for you guys. The difference between floor and ceiling is that floor rounds it down while ceiling rounds it up, and I want the highest number possible. So, and especially because when we're actually doing this, we're dividing a lot of these data types that are normally integers. We have to do a lot of typecasting in order for this to work. And I actually came across a Stack Overflow error actually, and that's what caused my game to basically crash. And well, it caused the Unity editor to actually crash. It wasn't even like my game itself, because basically what I was doing was that I wasn't converting certain types of data to the appropriate types. So for this math.power function, which is basically just a way of multiplying a single number by an exponent value. In my case, I'm just I'm taking the player's level and I'm raising it to the second power. So that's what this math.power function, and I'll get into I get into more in my devlog about I guess like leveling systems and the way how they work in a way with different games and stuff like that, which is why I had to write down scripts and really take time to kind of think about what I'm going to say. That way it doesn't come across as a bunch of gibberish. But yeah, so I basically had to typecast a lot of these values and make sure they work basically, because if they aren't the right values, as you can see, um, this function here takes in two doubles. So unless you're multiplying all this stuff by the exact same value, you're basically going to crash your program. Your computer won't be able to compute it because there are two different data types. So you have to be really careful when doing that type of thing. And this formula itself, like you could pretty much take any leveling system that's currently available. I went with a Dungeons and Dragons with their leveling system. So with the original Dungeons and Dragons, their leveling system, they currently don't use this, and I believe like on edition 5 now or something like that. But I went with that leveling system for my game because it seemed a bit more closer to what I wanted, and it was kind of like right on the nail. So that's what I stuck with. And this is basically the coding side of everything. What we're going to do now is that we're actually going to tweak the code a bit and show you what happens if the player is in certain scenarios. So here in Visual Studio, we're going to go over here again. And the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to comment out this level here to show you what happens if we basically if we don't increment the level value within that function, what happens and how, not necessarily the code doesn't crash at all, but basically sometimes it's better seeing is believing. So let's show a few things. So we're gonna go here to play. Okay, we have an instance of the player. Then we go into the tamer. And okay, got lost for a second. So immediately what happens is that the experience needed to get to the next level is 0. And what happened, the reason for that is because in this function here, this function here basically returns 0 because in my case, the experience needed to get to level 1 is 0. Like everyone starts at level 1, so you don't need any experience points to actually get to level 1. Like it's where everyone starts at. So logically, it makes a lot of sense. So, but if we go back here again into Unity and we increment it, you see we're at level 2, but then now we need 1,000 EXP to get to level 2, and really it should be the opposite way around, and that type of thing. So a lot of it's just like a mathematical things where I would say like this is something, because I really don't want to go on record and say one thing and then like I look back a while later and be like, nah, that's not right. What was I talking about? So I don't want to spread misinformation. So but it's really just a math based thing where in this form in particular, it gives you like you need 0 experience to get to level 1. Like everyone starts at level 1, but in order to get to level 2, you need 1,000 experience. So that's why we increment that value in our code actually, because that's how we get our system to work. Otherwise, we need to know how much EXP is needed to get to the next level, not the level that we're currently on. So let's go here and let's stop this real quick. Clear that. And let's go back to code. And we remove that and we're going to save that really quick. So now in the scenario where, let's say, we're actually going to increase the amount of experience that a player can get, and we're going to increase it to 5,000, right? But then what we're also going to do is that we're going to take away this function here that I created kind of as a loop. So the player needs, or actually, First, I'm going to show it to you guys with just 5,000 experience. We'll go back to that in just a second. And why this is important, and what would happen if Unity's kind of compiling right now. So what would happen if this loop didn't occur within the code, basically. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to spawn again, and gotta do it this way. Go to the tamer. This is why I really wish I had like a UI set up. It'd be a lot quicker to kind of like, instead of scrolling through this thing. Okay, so, as you can see, it works normally. We're on the regular leveling system. So we're going to press Q to increment it. And as you can see, we didn't just gain one level, we gained 2 levels. We're at level 3 now because we passed in 5,000 experience points. And in order to get to level 1, we needed 1,000 experience. And then in order to get to level 3, in order to get to level 2, we needed 1,000 experience. In order to get to level 3, we needed 3,000 experience points. So altogether, we still have 1,000 EXP left, and we need another 5,000 to get to level 3, and just increment it. But that's the reason why we do that loop, is to make sure that the player doesn't have more EXP than what's needed to get to the next level. So I'm gonna stop Unity real quick, hop back into Visual Studio, and show you precisely what happens when we don't create this loop. And reason why I call it a loop is that outside of while loops and for loops, you can actually create loops with functions where you can manually create loops with functions, basically. And that's just a little something I learned in school. So it's not always a for loop or a while loop or a switch. You can create loops within functions that go back and forth over and over again until you get the proper results. We'll let Unity compile real quick. We're past that 20-minute mark, so unfortunately we're almost done. Boy, I'm out of breath. Reciprocating all this knowledge to you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and spawn, and I don't think I necessarily need to show it. Well, yeah, this one. Stop myself from talking nonsense. Okay, so you see the level over here, and we still have it set up in Visual Studio where if we press Q, instead of getting 500 experience, we get 5,000 experience. So we're going to press Q again. And as you can see, we needed 1,000 experience to get to level 2, but we still have 4,000 experience points left. Now, normally that function would loop through again and check to see if we have enough EXP to get to the next level. But because I removed it, we have 4,000 experience, and the experience points we need to get to level 3 is 3,000. So now we have kind of an error because we have enough experience to get to level 3, but the game isn't checking for it. So that's the reason why we kind of create that loop for it. And it works in a lot of different ways. For example, we're going to go ahead and actually increment this again. And this time we're actually... Okay, first off, we need to uncomment this here. And I'm going to show you guys this and how this game can work. And even a game like World of Warcraft, how this kind of system can work. Especially a game that's consistently coming out with expansions and DLCs. And basically, this works like... Imagine playing a game and you get a lot of experience points. And even though, yeah, you got to level 100 and you're at endgame, you can still kind of accumulate experience points. But when the expansion comes out, sometimes those experience points are like, you already earned a lot of experience points, but they aren't applied to your character because of some crazy rule. Maybe they stop counting how much EXP you have, etc., etc., etc. Well, with this method, let's say an expansion were to come out, and instead of the max level being 100, it's 120 or 150, right? Well, with this method, even if you still have like experience points left over, the moment you gain even the slightest bit experience points, like the experience check happens again, and it goes through because the constant variable of 100 isn't there anymore. The new constant max level is 150. Any of those points that you gained before will be applied to your character. So like instead of like you might go from like 100 to like 120 instantly because you already racked up enough experience points to get to 120 in the game. So the way how my game will work is that there won't be anything lost. Like I definitely will reward players that stick around for a long time, and yeah, that type of thing. Like if you stick around for a long time, you'll definitely be rewarded for it. So that type of thing. But first, I want to show you guys exactly what I mean. So we're in the player tamer script with this level system, and this time we're going to be adding 1 million EXP every time we press Q. So I believe 1 million has 6 zeros. So yep, 6 zeros. So sorry, sometimes when you're adding by big numbers, it's like really hard to tell how many zeros something has. So we're gonna go back to Unity, and we're gonna let Unity compile, and we're just gonna have some fun. You know, like it's I don't know what that was about, but oh whoa. Okay, I guess the game compiled. We're almost at that 30-minute mark, and we're gonna press play, let the game start, and now we're actually gonna add 1 million EXP to our player with every click. Because obviously with games, there's times where the player might do something and be awarded a lot of experience points, and they might be at a low level, so you have to be able to accommodate certain things with your game. So that's the reason why I created this this level system, and it's a lot simpler than the leveling systems that I found on YouTube with tutorials and stuff like that. But you know, not everyone builds games the exact same way. Like a lot of people are using actions and you know there's other things, and these are just numeric values. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna press Q, and with just 1 million EXP, we jump from level 1 all the way to level 18, right? So we're gonna press it again, and then it's level 22, and as you can see, level 26, and as you can see, the higher we go, the harder it is to level up, to the point where even with 1 million EXP, it's still pretty hard to get to the next level. So that's kind of the leveling system that we have, and I'm going to take this all the way to level 100 and show you what happens when you get to level 100. It's a lot of clicking. Alright, so now we're at 1 million EXP and we're still gaining experience points. Now, you can imagine in an RPG or an MMO, even though, yeah, you're still playing the game, you're still gaining experience points. When the new expansion, like, obviously, I don't have a system for saving just yet, but if I could, I would save this information and then kind of rewrite the code and then show you what happens when the new expansion comes out. Basically, what would happen is that we go through that experience check function again, but the new max level for the game is 150. So you would get all that, even though you only needed like, what is that? If I count correctly, you only need like 5 million. You need 5 million EXP to get to level 100. Let's say level 101 or 150, you needed like, I don't know, like 13 million EXP. This basically covers you, because the moment you gain some EXP, let's say from doing like killing, like I don't want to say killing, but defeating like a monster or like something like around those lines, or completing like a small quest or something like that. In my game in particular, there's a lot of different ways of gaining EXP, and it almost seems like you gain EXP for everything. But in that case, like you would automatically like jump from whatever level you're at to the next level, to like the highest level, if you have enough experience to get to the highest level, is what I'm trying to say. So that's kind of the reason why that loop occurs within the code, is to make sure that basically players are rewarded the amount of EXP that they got from playing for a long time. So yeah, I think this just about wraps up everything. Once again, you can always tweak this code to your liking. So you can always make things different. You can always make things a little bit better. Everyone designs the games a little bit differently. But I found that this was actually the easiest way to do things. And, you know, you can obviously use events and a lot of different things. But for me, this is basically it. You can find the source code to this level system in the description below. If you like the video, please feel free to subscribe to the channel and leave a like, leave a thumbs up. Alright, well, I guess that'll be it for now. Keep making games. This is Codemaster. Till next time, this is Codemaster Jamal, and I'm signing out.